We're getting ready to rock and roll, but before I start, check out my shirt. Dig it. If you were in my Vermont class recently, then you recognize this phrase. By the way, I don't know if you can see the back of my shirt. It says, you see it? Dry fire is good in training. Dig it. So this is obviously your morning daily dry fire session or your live instructional session. Call it whatever you want. Looks like we've got a bunch of people on, folks. Happy Wednesday. We're getting ready to rock and roll. And by the way, we are talking about shotgun. Check out that blue beauty beast right there. I'm going to show you this here in just a second. So if you are not familiar with these, if you haven't been on these lives with me in the past, folks, my name is Mike Seaclander, and I am doing what we formerly call the DDC, the Daily Dry Fire Challenge, although I just call it the live content now, my Facebook Lives. And we are in that portion of the cycle where we're talking about shotguns. So good morning. Shout out to you COIN members. Shout out to you ACSS members, by the way. And those of you that are new to this, if you're a new watcher or a viewer or joiner or call yourself whatever you want, please let us know where you're from and tell us that you're new. And give me that dig it thumbs up. Everybody like the shirt. So by the way, you can get this on my web store. If you want to go to shooting-performance.com, click on the web store, you can check that out. So today we're talking about shotgun setup tips, like how you should maybe potentially approach your shotgun setup if you have a defensive shotgun. And that's kind of a, if you talk about shotgunning, we're talking kind of like a dinosaur, right? So, it's one of those things where I don't think a lot of people think about it as a defensive tool, but to me, it's one of the most incredible defensive weapons that you could possibly own. And they're also great for obviously hunting and doing a bunch of different things. So we're going to talk about how to set up your defensive shotgun. Of course, safety first. As always, no live weapons, so I'm going to give you a visual of what I've got here. I've got an unloaded and clear shotgun with an empty tube. And by the way, this is one of my Wilson Combat shotguns. This is one of their CQBs set up like they would set up their CQB with the pistol grip and a standard AR stock. We'll talk about that here in a second. But I do have a couple dummy rounds. So if you're going to be rocking and rolling with some dummy rounds with me, just make sure you double check these. I like to have dummy rounds that are visibly dummy rounds. Like these are very clear, see-through plastic. You can tell they don't have any primers. So if you're using dummy rounds, or some people actually load dummy rounds, off of their loading press, be real careful with that. Make sure you have, visible dummy rounds that you can absolutely and 100% say are dummy rounds. So double check your shotgun if you have your shotgun with me this morning. Double check your loading devices and whatever else. I've got that shotgun. I've got a secondary shotgun. I'm going to show you one of my Benellis. And then, of course, I've got a shell caddy. We'll talk about loading devices here in a second with shell caddies. This is obviously probably one of those things that you're going to want to have if you're a shotgun person, if you're going to have a defensive shotgun for home defense or whatever else. But notice that those 4 shells are also bright orange. So those are dummy rounds in terms of the shotgun. They're non-firing orange dummy rounds with the orange tap. So double check all your stuff. Make sure you are in fact unloaded and safe. As always, safety, safety, safety. Safety is everything in terms of these live streams. If you don't know who I am, if you haven't been on these live streams before, if you want to know more about my bio, I'm a Team Wilson Combat sponsored shooter. Of course, that's why I have the Wilson Combat shotgun. And also a full-time professional instructor. If you want to go to shooting-performance.com or MikeSeaclander.com to check out my bio, you can do this. If you're watching this on YouTube or whatever else, please make sure you check that out. A couple last things and I'm going to get going. Don't forget, if you are not a member of the Facebook Training Addicts group, join the Facebook Training Addicts group. It's an open and free group. It's not a members group. We have a couple of closed groups that are for members only. But if you join that group, I post all of these live streams. We do Q&A. I mean, a lot of people post questions. And I get on there on a regular basis and comment and talk about that. Don't forget that this video covers a portion of the entire spectrum, right? So this talks about, this live stream, I'm going to talk about shotgun setup. On the next live stream, we're going to talk about the shoot it, load it sequence. So I'm going to talk to you about, stance, mount, how to shoot, when to pump the shotgun, how to think about, riding that recoil to an extent and then loading the shotgun. But this is also the fundamental stuff, the basic stuff as we go through these cycles. If you want to know the entire shotgun program, you want to watch the entire shotgun program, go to MikeSeaclander.com. Check it out on MikeSeaclander.com. Okay, so let's start talking shotgunning. So first of all, actually I brought, my buddy Rick Brown will recognize this gun because we have brother and sister shotguns. I wanted to bring one of my original defensive type shotguns on the show this morning for you. And the reason I wanted to do that is to show you that with a pretty darn, I don't know if I want to say the word cheap, but a lower priced shotgun from Walmart can be set up and utilized effectively as a defensive type shotgun, assuming you add a couple things. Now, this doesn't have everything I want on the shotgun. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to show you this. For example, it does not have a full-time weapon-mounted light. So that's something I would add to this particular shotgun. I'm going to show you the comparison here in just a second. So this is one of my original shotguns. Just really simple setup. You can notice I have some skateboard tape up here on the, on the pump area, so I can more aggressively grab that. I've got some skateboard tape here where I grip the shotgun, which gives me a little bit more positive control in terms of actually controlling the shotgun itself. But pretty simple setup there, right? The only thing I really added to this gun was some Velcro on the side and a load type caddy. And you're going to see that on all of the shotguns that I'm going to be showing off today, for example. This particular shotgun has a load caddy on the side. So that's the first thing that I want to talk to you about, is not just a load caddy, but when we're looking at defensive shotgun kind of stuff, what dictates our ammunition selection? Like, what should we actually select and utilize in our shotgun to have an effective round that's going to have, plenty of stopping power, which, if we're talking about the 12 gauge shotgun round, stopping power probably isn't really our issue. It's probably more of an issue of what is going to stop the threat, but not continue to go through wall after wall after wall after wall. And really, in terms of ammo, you really have three primary choices. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about caliber, but your three primary choices would be, a slug, which is going to be a 1 ounce or so full chunk of lead. Buckshot, which is, several large pellets, just a few large pellets, very, very penetrating. Or birdshot, which is going to be the same concept, but many small pellets. You might have number 6 birdshot or number 8 birdshot. And interestingly enough, I went to a class, or actually was teaching a class in California a while back, and we decided we would actually do a penetration type test on some of these shotgun rounds. And we had a 12 gauge out there, so I had 12 gauge slugs, I had 12 gauge buckshot rounds, I had 12 gauge birdshot rounds, and then we actually had 20 gauge rounds because a friend of mine was actually building short Benelli 20 gauge semi-auto shotguns as home defense shotguns, because 20 gauge is still pretty solid in terms of stopping power, right? But it tends to penetrate a little less than the 12 gauge. So we went out there and we tested all of the different rounds, right? And interestingly enough, first of all, the birdshot penetrated, because we had several wall sections set up. The birdshot penetrated more wall sections than I thought it would. So here's the deal. If you are in room distance, like this room, the farthest distance to probably that corner or that corner is going to be about, 15 feet maybe 15 or 20 feet if I'm standing corner to corner. I am still at a distance where, depending on the choke of the actual shotgun itself, this particular load, the birdshot, would not probably spread out and open up. So if I shot birdshot in this room, a lot of folks automatically assume that birdshot is going to spread out and pepper someone. It probably won't even open up and begin to spread out in a room this distance, right? So if you have a home defense shotgun and you use birdshot, for example, for your home defense load, well, then, that birdshot is probably not going to even spread out in the distance of most small rooms, depending on your choke, of course. And everybody should know that, different chokes will affect and open up the birdshot sooner or later. It's going to change the pattern of the shotgun itself. So is birdshot a viable choice for a home defense round? Yes, it is, potentially. It's the only round that we tested that would penetrate through the first wall, and generally speaking would not penetrate in the second wall, because it was starting to open up and those pellets would start to open up. Where when we tested slugs and buckshot, for example, that stuff goes through and through and through and through and through. I mean, it's going to go through everything. So if you have a home defense shotgun, right, and you've got it loaded up with buckshot, that would be a traditional load. That's what, back in the day when I used to carry a patrol shotgun, I had buckshot loaded in my gun, but I also had a couple slugs up on the rack. So if I needed to shoot a farther distance, 70 or 80 yards, I could put a slug in. Now, most of you that are not in the military or law enforcement are probably not going to have the legal justification in most cases to do a select slug drill, put a slug in, and engage out to 80 yards. You probably, theoretically, could get to safely retreat before you had to engage at 80 yards. And I'm not saying it would never happen, but I'm saying it's less likely. But think about your ammunition selection. If you have an area or you live in a home where you have smaller rooms or thinner walls and you're concerned with penetration, then probably not slug is a choice for you. Buckshot is still going to be pretty iffy because it penetrates like crazy. So I would consider potentially a larger BB birdshot as your choice. But you're going to have to go out and test that with your shotgun. Okay. So let's talk about what I would add. For example, if you look at the shotgun in my right hand, this original, pretty simple shotgun setup. This is something I bought, like I said, with my buddy Rich a long time ago. We actually went to Walmart. He has the one with the black foregrips, the black pump, and the black stock. I got the one with the wooden. I'm not sure we flipped the coin on that or whatever else. But pretty darn simple setup here compared to this one, which has, I've got a standard AR type stock, right? So the stock adjusts and it feels exactly like the stock does on my AR. That's probably a plus because when I'm mounting, the shotgun to my face, I'm mounting and feeling the same mount position and I'm feeling the same cheek weld that I do on my ARs, right? It has a standard AR kind of pistol grip. So basically everything here on the back end feels just like I do when I pick up one of my AR rifles. I kind of like that about the shotgun itself. But let's start talking about the things that are really important. So in terms of a home defense type weapon, if you're going to grab the sucker in the middle of the night and someone has just kicked your door in and there's a bump in the night, this is probably something I think is one of the most important things you can have. A full-time weapon-mounted light, and this is actually a Surefire. This one is made by Streamlight. I haven't put this one on. I haven't tried this one. They're comparable products, very, very good. A little bit different in terms of the design. You can see this has a little bit of knurling or whatever this is called, a little more aggressive for the grip pattern. But they both have the ability in terms of the actual activation buttons to activate. For example, this can be activated part-time where I push a button, or it can be activated full-time, right? So if I turn this on, and maybe it's something where I need to activate it full-time and open a door, but I keep that light on. So I'm a big fan of the ability to activate a light part-time or full-time. In this case, on this light, on the Surefire, I have a button on one side, right? And if I go ambient shot with the other hand, I can activate the light with the other thumb there. Okay, so that's what that is. So that, for me, there are two things that I have to have on a shotgun. Number one is a full-time probably light. And here's the deal with the light in terms of a shotgun. I've seen a lot of guys with shotguns and they have a pump shotgun and they attach, some sort of cheap version of a weapon-mounted light somewhere up here on the tube. And there's a switch up there, right? I actually saw this guy, a guy like this at a gun show at one point in time. So he has a light and he has a switch up on the tube. But what he didn't think about, I suppose, is that if he's shooting his shotgun, right, he's going to be pumping it. But the switch is up here. So if you're pumping the shotgun and the switch is up here, that means either you got to reach up and turn the light on, pump and shoot, turn the light, whatever. It doesn't make any sense. So I would strongly recommend, A, you have a weapon-mounted light like this on a pump shotgun, or B, I've got so many shotguns laying around here. Notice this one has a weapon-mounted light. It has a TLR2 on it, and it has a light switch. So basically, this is one of my Benellis. This is Benelli M4. Heavy-duty shotgun. This is a shotgun the Marine Corps carried for a long time. But this also has a weapon-mounted light mounted at 6 o'clock position. Okay, so if you're gonna grab a semi-auto type shotgun, well, then that's probably what you're gonna look at. So A, I want a light on the shotgun. I think that's important to me. I like these pump lights. And then B, I want to have additional ammunition. Here's the thing about a shotgun. You're going to have so many rounds in your tube. Let's say you have you're legally able to do it in your state wherever you live. Let's say I could have 7 or 8 rounds in the tube, right? So I get 7 or 8 defensive rounds in the shotgun. I want to have 4 to 6 more shotgun shells on the side. I want to have some additional ammunition. Because it's a pretty it's a low round type system. It's not like if you grabbed a home defense AR and you got 30 rounds in the magazine, or you grab your home defense handgun that has a 16 or 18 or 20 round magazine in it. in one of the chambers. So we want to have the ability to reload if we need to. So I like the shotgun caddies on the side of the shotguns. Now in this particular case, I'll talk to you more about this next week when we're doing the loaded sequence. So in terms of how I may set my ammunition up on my caddy, this is typically how I'm going to have it set up. Of course, I would have 3 more shells facing down, and a lot of times I'll have either 1 or 2 facing up, okay? Now, these are my reload shells, so I would probably start, so let me get a couple more shells actually for you. So I'm going to put a couple more of these orange ones on. Once again, these orange ones are dummy rounds as well, so you can see my orange dummy round tap, okay? So in terms of how I would set this up, I would have probably most of my shells pointing down, right? And I would have at least one, maybe a second one pointed up. And what I'm doing is I'm actually staging them inside this caddy where I can reach them and pull them out, but they're not in the way of my fingers or my hands or whatever else when I'm trying to actually manipulate the shotgun, okay? Now, the difference between the shotgun shell that's up and the shotgun shells that are down is these are the ones that I would typically load into the tube here, right? So that's where those are going to go. So as I'm shooting, for example, if I fired around, boom, okay, pump the shotgun. If I needed to or wanted to at that point in time, I would start pulling from the bottom and loading the shotgun like that. We'll talk about that next week a little bit more in the loaded sequence. The one on the top is, interestingly enough, the one where this is what I call my emergency reload round. So when I set up my caddy, if I fired and I'm shooting, loading, of course that would be a pretty good catastrophic gunfight, right? To shoot a shotgun that many times in a home defense situation, either not doing your job in terms of seeing the sights, or maybe there's a horde of zombies coming over your fence. I don't know. If there's a horde of zombies and we've loaded with all this ammunition here and we got one left, that's what I call the emergency reload round, so I can grab it off the top of the gun, drop it in the chamber, and then fire those shots, okay? So that's why I have my caddy set up with 1 shell up like that. So basically, number 1, on my shotgun, full-time weapon mounted light. Number 2, I want some spare ammo. Now, in the terms of this particular shotgun, this also has a very, very robust set of peep sights, right? So I'm a big fan of a front and rear peep sight. If you don't have an optic on the shotgun, for example, and there would be nothing wrong, I would be perfectly fine with an optic on a home defense shotgun, assuming it's an optic that you could turn on and leave on full time, that you're not going to have to mess with pushing the button on, right? But this has a good set of peep sights. Very big, robust hole in the back. This has kind of a fiber optic type setup in the front, which allows me to visually pick up the sights very, very easily. And remember, in terms of a peep sight, I'm centering the sight in the back of the peep, right? So center the hole. And one of the things that I get oftentimes when we're talking about sights is, in terms of shotgun, a lot of people maybe believe the, I don't know, urban legend, let's call it, maybe myth of the shotgun, that if you've got a shotgun for home defense, well, you just point it in the general direction, boom, 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 and shoot that shotgun, right? Not the case, folks. As a matter of fact, the closer the threat is to you, the more precisely you're going to have to aim. Because if you're using some, let's say number 6 birdshot, number 8 birdshot, or whatever, depending on your walls in your home, that pattern will not have spread out. One of the unique things I learned when I started 3-gunning, I started training with my buddy Eric Lund, who was a state trooper, and he's teaching me the art of shotgunning and 3-gunning. He's like, Mike, the opposite that maybe we learn in handgun shooting with shotgun shooting is true. So for example, on a very close steel popper, on a handgun, I wouldn't take a lot of time on the sights. I wouldn't think that I would need to aim as much because it's close and it's easier to hit. Well, the closer the clay bird or the steel popper is with a shotgun, the more precisely I need to aim because the pattern has not spread out at all, right? If I'm using birdshot, in which case I would. So be aware that a good set of sights on a shotgun is important. You've got to have a good set of sights. Now, contrast, a front and rear peep sight on this shotgun to nothing but a bead front sight on this shotgun. That's a standard shotgun front sight type system, bead sight, where basically I'm laying the bead along the top of the actual shotgun itself and able to quickly fire the shotgun. It's a hunting tool, a bird hunting tool, where you can get up on a bird very quickly. But the front and the rear peep sight allows me to very precisely align that front and rear peep. Got a little something on my front sight there, a little piece of plastic or something, and take precise shots. Okay. Now, in this case, this shotgun doesn't have a sling on it. I probably will eventually put a sling on it. Now, this one kind of has a quick sling fix. I'm not a big fan of how I mounted this one, but it's something I did quickly. There's actually a mounting system I'm going to put on this shotgun, but it does have a sling on. So I could sling this sucker up, and if I needed to let the shotgun hang or whatever else, this is a single point sling. Um, both shotguns here could be set up with a 2-point sling. You know, they've got the system to do that. So whether or not you put a sling on your shotgun is completely up to you. Now, you know, that's a pump. Obviously, this is a semi-auto. You know, what is the best choice for a shotgun for you? Well, it really depends. If you're going to run a semi-auto, of course, then we run a shotgun that has potentially more malfunctions if we don't select the right ammo, we don't test it. In this particular case, Benelli M4 runs with pretty much anything I've ever put in it. I mean, this gun runs pretty much anything. But with a pump shotgun, for example, you know, we're running a pump shotgun. I'm not saying they can't ever have a malfunction, but the bottom line is, you know, if you can move the pump, you can, you can fix the malfunction in most cases. So I think probably in terms of a home defense shotgun selection, most of you would probably be better off with a pump type shotgun. Now, I did not pick blue as the color for this shotgun. They just surprised me when Wilson Combat sent this to me. They know my favorite color is blue, so they painted this beautiful shade of blue. They've got a bunch of cool finishes, so I was pretty happy with that. So I don't know if you like my blue shotgun or not, but I think it's pretty darn cool. So, but we've talked about a few things. We've talked about the importance of having a full-time light on your shotgun. And specifically, if you have a pump shotgun, it's got to be a full-time pump. This one is made by Streamlight. Excuse me, this one's made by Surefire. This one's made by Streamlight. They're both very, very good products. If you select a full-time pump light, make sure you select one that can be both temporarily activated, right? Temporary and permanent, right? So I could turn the light on if I needed to and still use the light when I get back to the position, okay? So, so select that. And then secondly, consider having, you know, some sort of side saddle with additional ammunition on your shotgun, especially if you have maybe only 4 in the tube, right? So you're going to want to have some additional information or some additional ammo to load the shotgun. Third, a set of robust sights. So if you needed to take a harder, longer shot, you could certainly do that. If you only have a shotgun set up with the, for example, the front bead like you would on a standard shotgun, well then you're going to want to go out to the range and see what you can actually do in terms of performance with that bead. Like what can you do, what can you hit. Now in this case, like I said, for my shotgun, I'm pretty impressed and pretty happy with the fact that the cheek weld and everything is going to feel the same. It's going to feel just like my AR system, right? In terms of pistol grip versus stock, right? Like the pistol grip, right? It mimics what I do with my AR system, okay? Ooh, good question, Sam. In terms of magazine-fed shotguns, the AK variants, or a lot of these shotguns that the 3-gunners are using. I'm going to be honest here, I don't own one. Well, actually, that's not true. I do own an AR look-alike magazine-fed shotgun, but I haven't shot it enough to know how reliable it is. So I would default, in terms of your question about the magazine or the AK style shotguns or variants, to how reliable is it? You know, is it as reliable as that Benelli M4, right? Is it as reliable as potentially my pump shotgun? And then I would make my decision based on that reliability factor. If it's super reliable and you can manipulate it and it mimics something that you shoot a lot, then I'd say it's going to be fine as a home defense shotgun, assuming you have plenty of ammo in it, maybe potentially a light, and a second magazine. It's the only difference between the pistol grip and the, for example, if I'm shooting this shotgun, it changes my hand in terms of how my hand holds a shotgun. Like if you look at my Benelli M2, I don't have a pistol grip on it. When I started 3-gunning, I had a buddy of mine that had a pistol grip, and he said, I want a pistol grip because it mimics my AR, the feel of my AR. So why not? I don't know if I feel any more or less recoil control with this than I do with the pistol grip. Matter of fact, I feel like I probably have more manipulation control in terms of the pistol grip. I can actually take the shotgun, I can control it here very easy without any pressure on my wrist, where with a standard shotgun holding it like this under my arm or trying to control it would be more difficult. So for me, I can control it better with the pistol grip. I think I probably have just as good a recoil control, if not better, with the pistol grip. So I wouldn't say that the internet warriors are correct on that one, or I haven't found that to be the case. And like I said, every AR system I have has a pistol grip on it. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, man. I'm sorry if I didn't, but I don't think I would worry about the AR type grips, versus a straight stock. And there's some people that, that they like a straight stock. But whenever the next live is, we're going to talk about really building, a good shooting platform with a shotgun. How do we control that recoil? Because the system does recoil a lot. We're talking about a system that recoils a lot more than maybe an AR or whatever else. So how do we control the recoil? And then what I call the shoot it, load it sequence, which is going to be a matter of manipulating the pump and then continuing to keep the gun topped off. We'll talk about that in the next slide. Okay. Don't forget, on Friday we're gonna do Coffee with Rich. So if you are available, hit Coffee with Rich live on Friday night. So folks, thank you for joining me. Don't forget, join the Training Addicts group on Facebook. And last but not least, if you haven't and if you missed out, please do me a favor, check out our podcast. Go to AmericanWarriorShow.com. You can check out the last several shows we've done. By the way, if you're a carbine rifle, pistol caliber carbine shooter, the last 2 shows have been specifically about that. So I think you'll enjoy them. And closing one more time, home defense shotgun. No matter what you're doing, you got to train with it. You got to practice it. So grab that shotgun, get it out of the safe, get it out of the closet, get your dummy rounds, hit the range, do some dry fire. Put some time in, and then meet me next time for live. We'll talk about the shoot it, pump it, load it sequence. All right. Take care.